Dear friends, today we are going to tell you about such a terrifying and shocking incident that will make your hair stand on end and force you to wonder, can something like this really happen? Someone did such a disgusting thing to a poor, helpless, blind widow that the whole village was shaken. Everyone was forced to think, how could this happen? Because that woman was not only blind, but also a widow. Then how did all this happen? Who could do such a despicable thing? Was it someone close, or a stepbrother, or a son? Someone no one could ever suspect? This heinous act shook the entire village. It proved that not every monster is outside. Sometimes the danger is right where we place the most trust. I had taken my 40-year-old mother to the doctor. My mother was a widow and it had been 10 years since my father passed away. Someone took advantage of my mother's blind eyes and did this sin to her. And when I found out the truth, I was stunned. I was sitting in the doctor's room, looking sometimes at my mother and sometimes at the doctor. When the doctor told me that your mother is going to become a mother, it was a truth too hard for me to bear. My head started spinning, my heart started pounding loudly, and I began to faint. I took the report from the doctor and came out holding my mother's hand. For the past few days, my mother had been unwell. Whenever she ate or drank something, she would immediately vomit. I thought her health was just generally poor, so I took her to a big doctor in the city. But hearing what the doctor said there, the ground slipped from beneath my feet. The doctor said your mother is pregnant. Hearing this, my mind went completely numb. So friends, now the story begins. My name is Zainab. There were 4 men in my house, my husband, my father-in-law, and 2 younger brothers-in-law. My mother lived with me at my in-laws' house. She had no one in this world except me. After my father's death, my mother raised me with great difficulty and got me married. And my husband Adil allowed me to keep my mother in my house. Only one question kept troubling me. Who did this disgusting act with my mother? My mother used to stay with me all day long. When I was in the kitchen cooking, my mother used to sit beside me and talk. During the day, neither my husband nor my brothers-in-law nor my father-in-law would be at home. They all worked in the fields all day and came home only at night. It had been 10 years since my father passed away, and my mother had never remarried. Because she was blind, she feared that if she remarried and her husband took advantage of her blindness and did something wrong with her daughter, what would happen? But today, someone took advantage of her blindness and did something that shook my soul from within. After my father's death, I received many proposals, but I had only one condition. I would keep my mother with me. I could not leave her alone because she was blind and couldn't stay alone. This was the reason my marriage was delayed, because no one could tolerate that their wife would keep her mother along. Then I got married into a family where my husband, my father-in-law, and 2 younger brothers-in-law lived. Their mother had passed away long ago and there was no other woman in the house. When I got married, a separate room was arranged for my mother in the in-laws' house. My husband and all family members respected my mother a lot. The brothers-in-law were school-going and mostly stayed outside the house. There was nothing that made me doubt them. But despite not wanting to, my thoughts started going towards the men in the house. I was caught in a huge trouble. And it was also true that my husband was a very good man. My husband used to take great care of me and my mother, but what happened with my blind mother? If I had spoken about it in my in-laws' house, they would definitely have thrown both me and my mother out. I was extremely disturbed, and when I got home, I didn't say anything to my mother. If I had told her immediately, she might have had a heart attack because she was already a heart patient. My heart and mind had gone completely numb. Who could do such a vile thing? When I reached home, I went straight to my mother's room like a madwoman and sat with her. She asked, "What happened, Zainab, dear? You look very upset today. What did the doctor say?" My tongue was tied. I just said, "Nothing, Mom. The doctor said everything's fine, just gave some medicine. Now you rest." Saying that, I left the room and went into the kitchen to make food. But my attention kept going back to my mother. She was blind, but she could still feel when someone came near her. Who could it be? My father-in-law or one of my brothers-in-law? My head was about to explode. I felt dizzy. I couldn't think straight. What should I do? My husband Adil would never tolerate such a thing being said about his father or brothers. And how could I tell him? Adil brought me flowers and garlands from the fields, but I couldn't even smile. He asked, "What's wrong, Zainab? Why are you so quiet? Are you feeling okay?" I just said, "I have a headache." He said, "All right, eat something and take medicine. I was thinking we could go out, but you should rest today." After dinner, I went to my room and hid my mother's reports. I wanted to find out who came into her room. That night when Adil came, I told him I wanted to sleep with my mother. He said, "Okay." I lay beside my mother. She was murmuring in her sleep. What I heard shook me. Someone used to come to her at night. I spent the whole night terrified, but no one came. In the morning, Adil and the brothers-in-law left, and my father-in-law went to his room. I went to my mother and asked, "Mom, who comes at night?" What she told me shocked me. At first, I suspected my father-in-law because he stayed at home. But he was religious. He prayed regularly. It didn't seem possible. Then I began to suspect the brothers-in-law who stayed up watching TV all night. One of them had even told me before my marriage that I looked like my mother, that she was so beautiful, she didn't look like a mother, but like a sister. Someone used to drug my mother and abuse her. She could feel it but was unconscious. This was unbearable for me. I was scared that if I told anyone in the house, they would throw us out and I would be divorced. Adil was a good man, but he wouldn't hear a word against his father or brothers. My father-in-law used to call my mother sister and never even raised his eyes in front of me. But what he was doing was disgusting. One time he brought fruit and said, "Give this to your mother. She's getting weak. Tell me if you need anything." I thought he cared about her. One night I woke up in the middle of the night and saw Adil wasn't in the room. When he returned late, I asked, "Where were you?" He said, "I was feeling restless, so I went outside for some fresh air." I had started suspecting everyone. Who could it be? My brother-in-law, my father-in-law, or even my husband? Thinking about it day and night was driving me crazy, and it had started affecting my life. I began to feel like my home was on the verge of ruin. My mother was going through immense pain, a kind of suffering she herself wasn't fully aware of. And for me, the biggest agony was not knowing how to tell her what the doctor had said. But even if I didn't tell her, how long could I keep it hidden? Day by day, I was breaking down inside. Only I knew the pain I was enduring. I started making excuses every day to sleep in my mother's room, just so I could find out who came there at night. A few days passed like this, and Adil began to notice my behavior, but eventually he stopped talking to me and began acting like a stranger. Our marriage was still very new. Adil loved me deeply. He worked all day in the fields and could only spend time with me at night. But in the misery I was in, I had pushed his love aside, and now I couldn't even give him proper time. He started complaining, saying, "Fine, go ahead, take care of your mother. She's the only one who matters to you now. I have no value left in your life." He was so angry he wouldn't listen to anything I had to say, and that day he left for the fields without even having breakfast. I was already distressed because of my mother, and now Adil's behavior was breaking me even more from within. I went to my room and began to cry. That night, Adil was in a terrible mood. I didn't even ask him for permission to go to my mother's room. Instead, I began apologizing to him for how I'd been behaving. He held my hands and said, "I don't get time all day to sit with you or talk to you. Only nighttime is ours, and even that you spend with your mother." In the morning, my mother said, "Zainab, you didn't come to me last night. When you don't come, he comes into my room, and the night becomes one of unbearable pain for me." My mother clung to me and cried, and I too broke down seeing her like that. There was no one else I could leave my mother with. She was blind, and I even had to help her to the bathroom. One night, I heard screaming from her room. Startled, I jumped up. I noticed Adil wasn't in the room either. I ran to my mother's room and saw that my brother-in-law was in there. My mother was screaming, shouting, flailing her arms and legs, trying to free herself. She was yelling, "Get away from me!" My brother-in-law was standing by the bed. When he saw me, he stared at me with strange eyes. I grabbed him and slapped him hard across the face and shouted, "Don't you feel ashamed doing such a filthy act?" His face turned pale and he stammered, "Bobby, what are you doing?" I heard Mom screaming and came to check on her. I yelled, "You're lying. Don't make excuses now that I've caught you. You make my mother a victim of your disgusting actions every night." Hearing my mother's screams, my husband and father-in-law also rushed into the room. My brother-in-law was trying to pull his hand away from me, My husband came over, and my brother-in-law angrily said, "Bobby, your mother is like a mother to me too. You should be ashamed of accusing me of something so filthy." I was sleeping in my room and came running when I heard her screaming. I replied, "No, you're lying." Adil looked at me angrily and said, "What kind of drama is this in the middle of the night? What will the neighbors think of us?" Interrupting him, I said, "Your brother is not a good man. Every night he drugs my mother and does horrible things to her." Hearing this, Adil slapped me hard across the face and shouted, "Zainab, do you even realize what you're saying? Who are you to make such a disgusting accusation against my younger brother?" My father-in-law, standing nearby, also became furious and said, "I took your helpless mother in and gave her shelter, and in return, you accuse us of something this vile?" And then exactly what I feared happened. My home began to fall apart. Adil said, "Your mother can no longer stay in this house. I'll make other arrangements for her." Already overwhelmed with grief, I had nowhere to take my mother. The thought made my head spin, and I fainted. When I regained consciousness, I saw Adil standing beside me, worried but still angry, while the doctor was checking me. The doctor told Adil, "You need to take better care of her." After the doctor left, I asked Adil, "If my accusation turns out to be true, if any one of you is guilty, what punishment should they receive?" Adil's tone softened. He said, "If the one committing such a vile act turns out to be one of us, he will be handed over to the police." A few days later, my mother underwent a DNA test. When I saw the report, I was shocked. It said all three men were innocent. I started thinking maybe they had manipulated the report, but Adil personally took me to the hospital where the report was prepared. It was a reputable hospital. I then began wondering, if it wasn't any of them, then who was the monster behind all this? Adil installed a camera in my mother's room. A few days later, someone entered the room, and Adil caught him. His face was covered. When the mask was removed, I was stunned. It was a beggar who used to come to our house every couple of days. Adil immediately handed him over to the police. After that, I apologized to everyone with folded hands. I told Adil everything, and he forgave me and hugged me. We then took my mother to the hospital and got her treated, because none of this was her fault. She shouldn't bear the burden of someone else's crime, and the culprit was now in police custody. After that, we started living together happily. Adil began taking even more care of me and my mother. So friends, the purpose of this story is to remind you to take care of your elderly loved ones. If they are helpless and cannot move on their own, keep a close eye on them. It's possible they may be in trouble, but can't tell you. We hope you learned something from this incident. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel to support us. We'll see you in the next video. Until then, may Allah protect you.